Hi everyone. I know a lot of you are not subscribed to me yet, so it'd be very good if you hit that like button, subscribe, and click that notification bell when a new video is up. Anyways, let's get on with the video. Hi everyone. I know this is very shocking, but today I'm going to react to a Pokemon video. This is going to be part 1 of watching Pokemon videos. So I hope you like it. Anyways, the video today we're reacting to is Pokemon Sword Hardcore Nuzlocke, a dark type Pokemon only. If some of you don't know what a Nuzlocke is, then you should probably like online because I'm not good at explaining things. Anyways, before we start, I know there's an ad, so you'll probably have to. Okay, the ads are finally gone, so we can finally react.
Pokemon Sword is a game that I've only ever played once, so I figured it would be fun to revisit the 8th generation and see if I can beat a Pokemon Sword Hardcore Nuzlocke using only Dark types. The standard Nuzlocke rules include that any Pokemon that faints must be permanently boxed, and you can only catch the very first Pokemon you find in any area. And in this case, we only get to catch the first Dark type we find in an area. And as for the hardcore rules, battle mode must be played on set mode, no items can be used in battle except for held items, and you're not allowed to overlevel the next gym leader's highest level Pokemon before entering the battle. We'll also be adding the additional rule that we're not allowed to Dynamax, which I may come to regret down the line. Anyway, here are the Dark type encounters we can get in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and as you can see, we got a pretty awesome roster to choose from. And with the Isle of Armor DLC, we also have access to Sharpedo and Zoroark. However, since I'm playing Sword, we don't get access to the Shield exclusive Pokemon Mandiba, Sableye, and Tyranitar. And with all that out of the way, we can start our adventure. Ah, yes, the Galar region, inspired by the marvelous Great Britain. Now, hold on a minute, that hat makes me look like an absolute bellend. And speaking of people looking weird, here's our champion Leon, who dresses the way I would have liked to when I was 7. I'm with this guy in the crowd, like, what are you wearing, Leon? Anyway, Leon's not that bad, though, because he lets us choose our starter Pokemon, none of which is going to turn into a Dark type, so I just make the most base decision. We can then go to Route 1 and find our real first encounter, a Nickit. I capture her and name her Bristol, and it turns out she has a brave nature, which is plus attack minus speed. And after acquiring some new hipster drip in Wedgehurst, we can move on to Route 2, where we find our second encounter, a Seedot. Now, Seedot isn't a Dark type until it evolves into Nuzleaf, so we're gonna have to bench it on the team for now, and it ends up having a quiet nature, which is plus special attack and minus speed, so pretty garbo. And it's at this point we have to take on our first somewhat difficult battle against Hop, and it's not looking good. Nickit is a Pokemon that has a base of 28 in both attack and defense. To put that into perspective, everybody makes fun of Onix for being garbage, and it has 45 attack. So this being the case, I'm obviously pretty worried for this battle, but at least I have to move Hone Claws to increase my attack power a bit. And I decide to go for 3 Hone Claws, which is pretty risky since Hop has 3 Pokemon at this point. On top of that, he's not exactly making it easy for me by using Growl to lower my attack back down, but 2 quick attacks at least takes care of the Wooloo. Next up is his Sobble, and as I go for a quick attack, I find out that it's going to take 3 hits to take him out. Now, luckily for me, Hop wants to show off his new move, Water Gun, which is great since my special defense is a lot better than my defense. However, I'm getting to be at very low health, and he goes for Growl the next turn, which means quick attack turns into a 4-hit KO. And while Sobble throws by going for Growl and taking me down to my neutral attack stat, I still have to contend with Rookity in the back. So now that I'm sitting at 9 health, I pretty much accept the defeat and that I'm going to have to do the run all over again. And after I see that I actually do fairly decent damage with quick attack, he takes me down to 5 HP with a peck. And the next turn, Rookity goes for Leer, which means that another peck is going to take me down. So with a heavy heart, I hit the reset. Hold on a minute, did Rookity just throw? I guess I just won the first battle against Hop. I thought I was going to have to try this battle closer to the level cap, but we pulled through, and this means that Hop and I are going to the wild area. Now in the wild area, I treat every sub-area as its own section where we can catch a new Pokemon. And so this means we can get our second usable team member, a Purloin that I named Norwich. He ends up having a hasty nature, which is actually okay for Purloin. I also run into a Pancham, which I catch and name Nottingham and put on the sidelines until he evolves into a Dark type. Over in one of the corners of the wild area, we can find one of the most useful items, the leftovers. And after a bit of searching, we find Stunky, which is going to be so important because of its poison type. Poison resists fighting, which we're otherwise very weak to. So I named Stunky Liverpool and move on to Motostoke. Here we can upgrade our wardrobe a little bit and receive the Miracle Seed from Leon so that we can boost C-Dot's power. We're also very rudely interrupted by Hop as we try to approach Ball Guy. You don't disrespect my guy like that. We also have to join the gym challenge, and with that, choose our trainer number. Nice. Now, the great thing about Sword and Shield is that we have so many encounters before the first gym. And so on my way to Turffield, I catch myself a Zigzagoon that I named Chester, and then I head over to the Isle of Armor where I run into a Corphish that I named Derby. And while catching Derby, C-Dot reaches level 14 through the experience share, so we now have Nuzleaf on the team. Say hello to Leeds. And speaking of Nuzleaf, I find a Leech Stone in the Isle of Armor, which I decide to hold off on using for a while. I also end up running into Gloucester the Inkay and Glasgow the Poniard. And right before taking on the first gym, we run into the annoying trainer Bede, and his psychic types go down just the way you'd expect them to. Maybe you should have used fairy types instead, dog. I also remember to pick up the expert belt outside the fighting dojo, and now it's finally time to take on our first gym challenge.
I like this
I
boy.
decided to lead
He's a
with
soft
Glasgow,
boy.
and I have one simple strategy. Expert belt Fury Cutter. If you didn't know, Fury Cutter's a bug type move that powers up every time you use it consecutively. The catch is that its accuracy is kind of iffy. Now, this is only the first gym, but we get to see the Dynamax phenomenon, which I way underestimated for this challenge. Luckily for us, though, Steel resists grass, and we can go for a Fury Cutter that doesn't quite take out Eldegoss. The next turn, we're introduced to Dynamax moves, and luckily for me, this time we're eased into it, and I don't take that much damage from Max Overgrowth, and I can take out Eldegoss with our next Fury Cutter to gain the first gym badge. Milo never actually stood a chance against Poniard, and after the gym battle, Chester evolves into Galarian Linoon. And at this point, this actually ends up being a huge power-up boost for the team. And we're going to need that power-up boost, because very shortly after facing Milo, we're going to have to go up against the Water-type gym leader, Nessa. And I mean, just look at this girl. She's got inner tubes on her sneakers. I do indeed like women with ample flotation devices. Anyway, Nessa starts off the battle by sending in her Goldeen, and so this is Leeds' time to shine. And after a fake out on a Razor Leaf, her Goldeen is ancient history. Her second Pokemon is Arrokuda, which is really fast and ends up getting a flinch on the first turn, but her second bite isn't as lucky, and it too goes down to a Razor Leaf. It's then finally time for Nessa's ace Pokemon, Dynamax Dreadnought. Now, I really don't want to switch anything into Dynamax moves from this thing, so I decide to stay in for one turn and hopefully live a Max Strike, and I actually do on very low HP in the red. I end up doing a substantial amount of damage with Razor Leaf, but the next turn we have to switch out. So I send in my tankiest Pokemon at the moment, which ends up being Chester, who actually tanks the Max Strike pretty well. Now, another one is going to knock us out, but luckily before the battle, I equip Chester with a Citrus Berry, which heals up just enough so that we can take another Max Strike. And after doing just that and tanking another Max Strike the next turn, I retaliate with pretty pitiful damage with a Night Slash. At this point, at least Dreadnaught's Dynamax turns are over, but both my speed and health are pretty low, so I decide to switch out into Liverpool. I wouldn't exactly say that I take a Razor Shell well, but at least after Citrus Berry, I'm at a point where I'm pretty comfortable taking another one. Luckily for me, however, I get a clutch Razor Shell miss, and I can go for a Screech. And I'm very glad that I was so confident in staying in because I live on 2 HP, and I can retaliate with a Bite, which takes down Dreadnought, and we get our second gym badge. And
Ooh. Darn it. Hold on. Alright, we're back from the ads, everyone.
Max only gets more and more problematic from here on out. Next up, we move on to Galar Mine number 2, where I find myself a Scraggy. I name it Manchester, and it ends up having the ability Moxie. Now that's a sound catch. I'm buzzing about it. We also run into Bede, who gets very offended by my Manchester impression. Sorry, Bede. We then run into Team Yell once again, and after beating them, Nickit actually evolves into Thievul. And now that we have our second gym badge, we can actually catch some higher level Pokemon in the wild area, and I run into a Skorupi. I name it Plymouth and move on to the Isle of Armor, where I can fish for a Carvana. I name it Wakefield and move on to the desert, where we can find another Isle of Armor encounter, Sandisle. I name it Exeter, and much like Scraggy, it has the Moxie ability, which might come in handy. And to prepare for the gym challenge, I search around in the wild area if there are any good TRs on sale, and I find this guy who sells me Earthquake, which I can teach to Exeter. In preparation for the gym, we managed to get Norwich to evolve into Liepard, and then it's time to take on Kabu. Now, this is the part of the game where the difficulty starts to really ramp up. He leads off with Ninetales, so I decide to go into Exeter, and he tries to go for a Will-O-Wisp, but luckily I remember to give Sandile out a Rostberry, so we heal off the burn and fire off an Earthquake, which isn't quite enough to get the KO. Now at this point, unfortunately, we've burned our Rostberry, so the next turn I do get burned and have my attack halved, but at least I can get rid of Ninetales with an Earthquake. This means I get a Moxie boost, which doesn't amount to anything in the end, since he sends in Arcanine, which intimidates me immediately. I figure I can tank one Flame Wheel, but it does a lot of damage, and we barely touch Arcanine with Earthquake. I decide Chester's my best switch in, but unfortunately, I get burned right away on the first Flame Wheel. This means I have to consume my Rostberry one turn earlier than I expected, and I'm not going to get to fire off 2 Night Slashes unburned. My second Night Slash even ends up being a crit, but it lives on red HP and goes for agility. That agility ends up being pretty clutch though, since I can live another Flame Wheel and take out the Arcanine with a Night Slash, leaving only Scentiscorch. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Gigantamax Scentiscorch was the beginning of the end for me. See, I had this great plan. I was going to use Protect to stall out Gigantamax turns and maybe not lose too many Pokemon, but unfortunately, Chester goes down to the first move. You live on in the Queen's heart, Chester. Next up, I send in Inkay, which I thought I taught Protect, which probably wouldn't have mattered anyway, since it's quad weak to Bug, but that's it for Inkay. My final attempt to stall out the Scentiscorch is Liverpool, and fortunately I actually taught it Protect. However, Scentiscorch's G-Max Fire move actually traps me in Fire Spin, which means I'm not going to be able to switch out later. And even though Liverpool manages to pull off a Toxic and stall a little bit by using Protect, it ends up going down to a Flame Wheel. Liverpool, more like Deadpool. And so after losing half my team, I have to send in Scraggy, who can stall a little bit using Protect, tank a Flame Wheel, and then win us the battle by using Headbutt. And I mean, yeah, we won, but at what cost? Immediately after the battle, I decide to numb the pain by fetching some new drip. I also decide it's time to evolve Nuzleaf into Shiftry, since our team kinda needs an upgrade after that great loss. Oh, and I also visit the person who means most to me, Ball Guy. I then have a very close call with a Team Yell Grunt where I almost lose Scraggy, but fortunately we pulled through, and after the battle, Exeter finally evolves into Krokorok. I'm then finally in Stow on side, which I gotta say is the weirdest name for a city in this game. Fortunately for me though, I can head to Glimwood Tangle before the gym and run into an Impidimp. I name him Bradford, and unfortunately for me, Bradford has a bold nature, which is minus attack. And to prepare for what I expect is going to be one of the most difficult battles in my Nuzlocke career, I evolve my Pancham into Pangoro, Carvana into Sharpedo, and Impidimp into Morgrem. This means it's time to take on B-Inter fighting types, which are obviously super dangerous against our dark types. I leave with Nottingham and boost my attack by using Workup, as Hitmontop fails to use a counter. After using my second Workup, Hitmontop hits me with a really strong revenge, but at least Citrus Berry gets me up above half health. At this point, I'm sitting on +2 attack from the Workup, so I'm feeling pretty confident that a single low sweep is going to take out Hitmontop. Beast Pangoro suffers the same fate, and then she sends in Surfetched, which doesn't actually get knocked out, but it goes for Swords Dance, so I get a free KO the next turn. Now I know what you might be thinking. Hey, this gym battle's going very, very well against the fighting types, and how could it go wrong from this point? Well, Dynamax Machamp had different plans for the way this battle was going to turn out. I go for Protect with Nottingham, which actually lets me live a G-Max Cheese Strike. When you say it fast like that, it actually sounds like Cheese Strike. The second G-Max turn, I go for a low sweep, which actually takes Machamp under half health, but then Pangoro has to go down to a G-Max Cheese Strike. I then send in Thievul, who can burn the third G-Max turn by using Protect, and I actually live a Cheese Strike pretty well. But my success with Thievul isn't long-lived. It goes down to a revenge the very next turn. Now here's my biggest mistake. I should have put the Sticky Barb on Thievul, that way I wouldn't have had to sacrifice Liepard too. But when Liepard goes down to Machamp, it means that the Sticky Barb is transferred, and Machamp is now taking damage every single turn. This makes the rest of the battle super easy, because I can just fake out to burn one turn, and the second turn I take it out by just using Protect. So at this point, that means we actually have 6 deaths, a full team of Pokemon, and if this is the way it's gonna go, we're not gonna be able to sustain these rates for very long. Next we have to go look at the...
Alright, I think that's the end of it. See it. You'll see part 2 of it. Don't worry.